DMV Download, the new daily podcast from WTOP News, is out now. Hosts Megan Clorty and Luke Garrett get the story behind the story.
Every weekday afternoon, Megan and I will go beyond the headlines with WTOP reporters and sources to bring you more on the biggest local stories impacting you, our fellow Washingtonians.
The DMV Download podcast is available now on all major podcast platforms. Subscribe today so you don't miss an episode. The DMV Download podcast is presented by Steamfitters Local 602.
Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Gary Sinise co-hosts the annual National Memorial Day concert tonight in Washington, D.C., airing live on PBS. I spoke with Sinise about his support for the troops with his Lieutenant Dan Band, as well as the legacy of his iconic character in Forrest Gump. Hey, Gary Sinise. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to join us on WTOP again this year.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We are here to talk, well, you got your foundation. We got a lot we can talk, but let's start with the National Memorial Day concert. You're going to be co-hosting again with Joe Mantegna. You guys have been at it for many years now. It'll be Sunday, May 29th. How many years have you and Joe been doing it now?
Joe started, this is his 20th year. He started in 2002, I think was his first show. Mine was 2005. And I got involved because he and I are buddies, and he called me up and told me he was doing the show, and would I come and bring my band and do a segment. And I did, and it was magnificent and wonderful to be on stage playing with the National Symphony Orchestra and my rock band, and 200,000 people on the lawn and 10 million watching on PBS. It was just wonderful. And then Joe called and said, hey, they'd like you to come back and co-host with me. So I did that the following year and been doing it with Joe ever since. I think I've only missed one or two. One was because my granddaughter was born and I didn't want to miss that. But I wouldn't miss it. It's just a wonderful way to salute and pay tribute to the men and women who have sacrificed for our freedom all these years, and to remember and honor them and their families.
Absolutely. And who all do we have on stage with you this year? I know every year they get like an all-star lineup in addition to you and Joe. So who else do we got this year?
Oh gosh, there's a ton of people. Some that have done it before: Mary McCormick, Dennis Haysbert. They've done it before. Brian Stokes Mitchell. He's done it before. We of course we have the National Symphony Orchestra with Jack Everly. He's the conductor, and they are magnificent. Gene Smart is joining us this year. That's going to be great.
Yeah.
So many. Norm Lewis, and just a wonderful group. Craig Morgan's gonna play. I'm looking forward to that. So, and then there's me and Joe. We're doing our thing.
I love it. And is it something that do you hope sort of audiences have a similar experience to the first time you did it? And I'm sure it's something where when you did it the first time, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, like doing it once, you have to do it every year. Do you think it's the same thing as viewers? If they've never tuned in, when they tune in and they see what it's all about and the cause it's about, they have to tune in every year, right?
I've had people tell me they never miss it. It's something that they watch every year. And certainly, I'm in the military community all the time, doing events and support and providing services and whatnot. So a lot of our military members and families, they know about this concert, and it's very special to them. The Capitol Concerts people that produce this always put a wonderful show together, and with wonderful segments, powerful segments. We have, many this year as well. We usually, every year we will say to each other at the end of the show, that's the best one we've ever done. And, it feels like it is, but we've done a lot of great shows over the years. And it's just a great way to remember And that's what Memorial Day is all about, is remembering, and remembering the sacrifices that have kept us free.
It really is. And, that's sort of all, you said I mean, so much of your life is entwined with, the military, paying tribute. You run the Lieutenant Dan Band and the Gary Sinise Foundation. Tell us about the Gary Sinise Foundation really quick. How long's it been around, and the mission?
We're almost coming up on the end of our 11th year. So,
wow.
We started in 2011 is when I launched it publicly, and where we started taking in donations. And since that moment, we've raised hundreds of millions of dollars from the generous American people who want us to pass that generosity on to the men and women who serve our country. So we have multiple programs at the Gary Sinise Foundation. You can go to GarySiniseFoundation.org to learn about those programs. We build homes for our wounded. We provide services for Gold Star children. These are children that have lost a mom or a dad in military service. There's just multiple initiatives and programs at the Gary Sinise Foundation. And I encourage you to go to the YouTube channel there and just check out the videos, because they really highlight so many of the people that we're serving, and the benefits that donating to the Gary Sinise Foundation can provide to these military family members and our first responders.
Absolutely. It's GarySiniseFoundation.org if anyone wants to check that out. Perfect thing to do over the Memorial Day weekend holiday here. And of course, the namesake for the whole band and everything, the Lieutenant Dan Band, of course, comes from your iconic character in Forrest Gump, a movie we all love. Why do you think the character of Lieutenant Dan caught on with everybody? Is it, well, yeah, why do you think? I mean, it really is an inspirational character arc.
It's a great little story. If you look at it, I mean, the Lieutenant Dan story is only in a small portion of the movie, but it's a wonderful story, because not only does he, you meet somebody who really just wants to serve, wants to be a great military leader. He gets that kind of cut out from under him, losing his legs in battle. He's dealing with post-traumatic stress, having walked his platoon into an ambush, and his guys get hurt or killed, and then he has to deal with that. He goes into isolation, of course, and deals with alcohol abuse, and really dark period. But he's lifted again toward the end of the film, and then what happens? He's successful. He's moving on in life. He's standing up on new legs, and he's going to make it. And that's a wonderful story. Prior to the Forrest Gump story of the Vietnam veteran, most of the movies that had come out, the Deer Hunter and Coming Home and Casualties of War and Platoon and Apocalypse Now, if you look at them, you just don't know that you don't feel like the Vietnam veteran in the movie is going to be okay at the end. But along came Forrest Gump, and now we have a story of a Vietnam veteran who can put that all in perspective, stand up again, and move on with life. And of course, that's the story that we want for every single service member coming home from war. We want them to be able to put it in perspective, and move on and be okay. And that, I think, that really resonated with a lot of our citizens, and certainly it resonated with a lot of our veterans.
That's such a good point. And yeah, and of course all those movies you named have a place, and the anti-war, all, you know what I mean? There's movies, everyone has a right to make those movies, and Born on the 4th of July, etc. But I think that's
They're
what
all
makes
good movies.
Oh yeah, but that's the special place Forrest Gump carves out, is that you get to see sort of a happy ending for the wounded vet for a change,
Yeah, and we didn't see that before. We hadn't seen that with a Vietnam veteran before, and I think that was a story that was being neglected, actually, because a lot of Vietnam veterans, even though they struggled and whatnot, there were a lot that came home from war and were able to move on and go into business, or lead their lives, put everything kind of in perspective and move forward and be okay. And I've met a lot of those Vietnam veterans, and Lieutenant Dan represented them, and that particular story hadn't been told. So I think it was a happy ending, and it's certainly the happy ending that we try to provide for our veterans at the Gary Sinise Foundation by providing specially adapted homes for them and all kinds of services. We want them to be able to, to be like Lieutenant Dan, to come home from war, but and feel okay at the end and be all right, and we want them to know they're appreciated.
Absolutely. When you swing those, the CGI, the lack of legs through the side of that boat and drop in that water and do that backstroke off into the sun, and Tom Hanks says, "I think he made his peace with God." That's what we want for everybody. It's a uplifting moment. It really is.
That's exactly right. That's what we want.
That's what we want. The National Memorial Day concert, again, is going to be Sunday, May 29th, 8 p.m. Everyone check it out. Gary Sinise, thanks. Stay tuned for my other chat with Gary Sinise, but first, a message from a fellow WTOP podcast.
DMV Download, the new daily podcast from WTOP News, is out now. Hosts Megan Clorty and Luke Garrett get the story behind the story.
Every weekday afternoon, Megan and I will go beyond the headlines with WTOP reporters and sources to bring you more on the biggest local stories impacting you, our fellow Washingtonians.
The DMV Download podcast is available now on all major podcast platforms. Subscribe today so you don't miss an episode. The DMV Download podcast is presented by Steamfitters Local 602.
Welcome back to Beyond the Fame for my 2016 chat with Gary Sinise for the GI Film Fest. Thanks so much for joining us, sir.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Sinise is going to be here in town for a bunch of stuff timed with Memorial Day, like you are every year. You're always so great and generous with your time with the troops. It's always a great cause. But first of all, let's start off with the GI Film Fest. It's celebrating its 10th anniversary, and it starts Thursday, May 21st through the 29th. But tell us what you're going to do over at Howard Theater.
Well, we have the 10th anniversary opening coming up on Saturday night at the Howard Theater, May 21st, and I have been involved with the festival going back to the beginning and offered to bring my band, the Gary Sinise and the Lieutenant Dan Band, to open the festival. So we're going to have a big concert celebration on Saturday at the Howard Theater. You can go to gifilmfestival.com for tickets. I think there's still some tickets available, but they're going, and we're going to have a great launch to this 10th anniversary season for this great festival.
And tell our listeners, the type of, classic hits you guys are going to be playing at that concert. I know it ranges from, some older artists like the Stevie Wonders and Springsteens to some newer stuff, Ban Perry, Zach Brown Band, that kind of stuff. Go into some of the set list.
Oh, it's pretty, it's a pretty wide variety of tunes. I started the band to play for the military years ago, and we've done hundreds of concerts, and I wasn't a songwriter or anything like that. I just wanted to play music and entertain our troops, and so we started putting set lists together that would kind of, where a little something for everybody. Everybody could enjoy it. So there's classic, and there's contemporary, and there's pop, rock, blues, country, Motown, there's swing music. I mean, it's
everything.
Kind of all over the map, and there's everybody has a good time at these concerts. We play so much for the military. The day before, we're going to be doing one of my festivals with my foundation, the Gary Sinise Foundation. We put on festivals at our military hospitals.
Oh, cool. That'll be on Friday the 20th then? That'll be the day before?
Friday the 20th, we're at Walter Reed. That's obviously not open to the public.
Sure.
But it's for the men and women who are serving there, who are going through rehabilitation, the staff members and families that are at the hospital. We do these all over the country, and so we'll be there. And then the following night, May 21st, Saturday, we're opening the GI Film Festival. So I hope everybody comes out. Try to get tickets if you can.
Why? I mean, of all the stuff you do, this has to be one of those annual most rewarding things you've done, more than even the acting or any of that, to be able to go into Walter Reed like that and play just for the guys in sort of a private, closed to the public sort of thing. Just why is that always so, special for you?
Well, we've done, I've been going to these hospitals for years. My foundation was just launched in 2011, and
okay.
Prior to that, I had the band, and we had done a couple of concerts at Walter Reed, at the old Walter Reed, and quite a number of USO shows and different military charities going back to 2003. So when I started my foundation, I wanted to create something where we could kind of go into the hospitals where people are, can be going through rehabilitation for several years. I mean, and their families are there with them, and the staff members are just they're dealing with one wounded service member after another, and it can be kind of a long haul. And so, somebody like me coming in with a band, I have my friend Robert Irvine. He's a celebrity chef. He comes in and cooks food.
Oh, that's awesome.
We've got some great sponsors, and we put up moon bounces and things for the kids, and we just wanted to create a festival atmosphere so that the people at the hospital would be lifted up, and it might help them through the daily grind of going through their rehabilitation. That's just one of the programs at my foundation. Yeah, I've been supporting the GI Film Festival, though, going back 10 years. I remember the first one.
Yeah, did you think it was going to take off? Did you think 10 years running this thing would be still rolling, and picking up steam like it has?
Well, it was hard to tell, but they have, Brandon and Laura, who run it, are very dedicated, and they have built it over the years, a lot of great sponsors have jumped on board, and now if you have a military-themed film, that is a go-to place for your film to be launched. At the second festival, I was an executive producer on a documentary that ended up in the festival, and the filmmaker won the award for it.
That's so awesome.
And that helped launch his film around the country. So it's a very, very good festival, and it celebrates the service of our, the men and women who defend us all. And this year I said, this is the 10th anniversary. Let me donate the band and let's launch the festival with a big concert. So we're going to do that at the Howard Theater on Saturday.
Yeah, well, here's to 10 more, more than 10 more years. Hopefully that thing goes on forever. All right, so you got that going on. You got Walter Reed Friday, you got the GI Film Fest Saturday at Howard Theater kickoff. Tell us about the Memorial Day concert on Sunday, the 29th, and then the parade on Monday, May 30th, actual Memorial Day. What will you be doing there? You're co-hosting with Joe again, right?
Yes, I started doing the Memorial Day concert in 2005. Started co-hosting in 2006. I was just a part of it in 2005, and then they asked me to come back and host it with Joe. And I've been doing that ever since. We just wouldn't miss it. It's one of my favorite things to do each year. It's a great way to pay tribute to those who have sacrificed for our country, given their lives. We have great performers every year that are going to be a part of it. Obviously Joe's going to be a part of the concert this year, as always. He's always there, and we just wouldn't miss it.
Yeah.
It's always a very moving and uplifting way to honor those who have paid a price for our freedom.
That's what it's all about. I know we're running up against the clock, so let's make this the last one. You're definitely proud of the Lieutenant Dan thing. You've named the band after it, and I'm sure troops come up to you all the time talking about it. What do you think it is about that character that inspires them after all these years? I mean, I'm sure it's dealing with, a war handicap. He loses his legs, but even more than that, speaks sort of that transformation that Dan the character goes through of, wanting to die in battle like his ancestors and suddenly learning to live again, really, and finding his peace with God.
I think that's the whole story. It's a hopeful story. It's an understandable story where you see the ugliness of war, and you get your legs blown off, and you're injured. Lieutenant Dan has he feels very guilty for walking his platoon into an ambush and losing his men and that kind of thing. So he's carrying a lot of anguish, a lot of anger, a lot of sadness with him, but ultimately at the end of that story, he's standing up again. He's a successful businessman. He's married. He's moving on with his life, and that's the story that we want for for all our service members coming back from war, and I think maybe that's why that particular character resonates with them so much.
Magic legs. All right, thanks so much, sir. It's an honor, and we're looking forward to all the events, and thanks again for all you do for the troops. We really appreciate it, especially here in D.C.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.